Good morning. I hope you're having a great day. I want to talk to you today as your first CFO, and that's the first CFO for entrepreneurs of all sizes, from just starting up with a 5-figure business to all the way up to entrepreneurs who are in 8, 9 figures. And actually even billion-dollar businesses, because quite frankly, billion-dollar businesses is where I learned how to do what I do. So there's a word that's often associated with billion-dollar businesses that sometimes scares entrepreneurs, and I want to get us out of that mode because there's no reason to be scared by it, and it's an incredibly useful tool. And there are a lot of different definitions for this word, so I just want to talk about my definition for it here a little bit today and wrap it all up in a package that makes sense to entrepreneurs that are my size and your size, and why it's so incredibly important. And that word is forecast. I'm reaching a little bit here, so I'm sorry if the writing's not perfect. But we all have a bunch of different definitions about forecast, and I want to tie it just to one thing, because in my mind and in the forecast work that I do for my clients in the entrepreneurial space, it has to do with just one thing. Okay? It has to do with our bank balance. Terrible drawer, but pretend that's a bucket, right? And that's our bank account. And in our bank account, we have some amount of money. Sometimes. But we all have a bank account. I talked a little bit yesterday about how important it is to have a business bank account. So if you don't, you may want to go back and look at yesterday's Facebook Live, because it talked a little bit about the benefits of doing that. But for this purpose, we're going to assume we have a bank account for our business, and there's some sort of amount of cash in it, even if that amount happens to be $0 or $1. All that forecasting is, all it's doing, all that matters about forecasting is that sometimes, forgive my staff, they're getting a little rammy, sometimes that bank balance goes down, and sometimes that bank balance goes up. And we want to be able to, with as much certainty as possible, predict when that's going to happen. And why do we want to do that? So let's take a classic example and say that you as the owner, you're ready to go on a vacation with your spouse or life partner or whatever, and you want to tap your bank account and take a little money out. Okay? So if you want to take a little bit of money out, which clearly my staff wants to go on vacation today, if you want to take money out, you can do that one of two ways, right? You can do that with a whole lot of confidence, or you can do that with a whole lot of trepidation and questions, right? And what forecasting does, and this is where we sum it up, this is where the real rubber hits the road on forecasting. What forecasting tries to do, is eliminate the question marks and give every decision you make in your business, right? Not just whether you're taking cash out of the business or not, but give you confidence in those decisions. Okay, so a couple terms I want to go over here that I think as entrepreneurs you're going to recognize. I don't like using accounting terms as a rule, which is why I'm trying to use entrepreneur terms to explain an accounting term, forecast, well, or a weather term, take your pick. But the 3 words I do want to talk about are levers, opportunities, and obstacles. Okay? Because these are the realities of entrepreneur's life, okay? And let's think about an entrepreneur and what we're really doing. For the most part, we're starting down here somewhere. Make sure you can see this on the camera. You can. We're starting down here with an idea. This is where you'll really see that I'm not an artist. We have an idea. We have maybe a product, we have a service idea, whatever it is. And we know we want to get to a place. And let's say that place is way up there. And we know, okay, yeah, there's a straight line from here to there, and I know what I need to do. But the other thing we know as entrepreneurs is very clearly that we are never going to progress along that straight line, right? We are going to have whole bunch of turns and twists just by nature, but also out there on the road from here to there. There are going to be some opportunities sitting there that we'll want to take advantage of, and there are going to be some obstacles out there that could hurt us. And I think of this, I don't know if people still know the Chutes and Ladders games from when I was a kid. Maybe I'm dating myself. But the opportunities tend to jettison us forward like ladders in that game. And the obstacles tend to take us back, sometimes all the way back to the very beginning if we hit them unexpectedly, right? So clearly, as we're progressing our way towards our goal, we want to be able to do something like avoid the obstacles and take advantage of the opportunities. And what a forecast does, or what our ability to look at our bank balance and say, oh, a week from now it's going to be here, so that's going to be in a week, and a month from now it's going to be up here, and I know why, and a year from now it's going to be way down here, but that's okay because I know I've invested in my business. As opposed to my bank balance is going to be going up and down all over the place. I have no idea when it's going to go up. I have no idea when it's going to go down. So I don't know what to do because I'm paralyzed worrying. For example, if I pull money out of my business, I'm paralyzed worrying that I pulled out too much. I pulled it out too soon. I'm going to have to put it back. I'm going to have to borrow money. I'm not going to be able to make payroll. Whatever all those concerns are, we want to totally eliminate them. And we totally eliminate them by making sure that the numbers you see in your forecast are the levers in your business, right? And what are the levers? So when we think about a business, the levers are things like pricing, how much you charge for your project, staff, how many people you hire and when you hire them, marketing, how much you spend on marketing and what kind of marketing. Think of each of these as a lever that you can move backwards or forwards or left or right based on what you want to do or how you want to steer your business ship, right? And the only way that you know how you're doing or what's going to happen when you move those levers is if you have a forecast. So the whole point of forecasting is to say, if I move this lever this much in that direction, what's it going to do to that cash balance? If I hire 2 people, what's it going to do? If I double my investment in marketing, what's it going to do? These are the levers that you have to steer the ship. And what forecasting those does, or what saying to you, hey, how do we think this is going to turn out, and updating that periodically so that we know it's good information or relatively good information, you know sort of what your boundaries are here, right? You know how far you want to go in or out of alignment with your direct line to your goal, because you've got confidence, which is key here, that when you make the decisions to move these levers, if you move them this far or this far, you'll be okay, because you'll know what will happen to this bank balance within these boundaries. So now you've got the freedom to navigate from here up to here by going, oops, I want to avoid that obstacle, and I can see it because I can see my cash flow. I want to hit that opportunity. I want to hit that opportunity. I want to miss that obstacle too. And I want to hit that opportunity, and I will still make my goal. And I'll make it a lot faster than I would have otherwise, because each of these acted like a turbo booster. That's a terrible rocket, but that's a rocket. There's the windows for the astronauts, and there's the booster rocket falling off down back to Earth. How's that for art? I told you I wasn't an artist, that's why I'm an accountant. But that's why forecasting is important, and that's why these 3 words are important. You want to know where are the opportunities, where are the obstacles on the way to my North Star, which is the goal that I have for my business. And not only that, what are the business levers I have to move, and most importantly, what impact will moving those levers have on my cash. And that's really what it's all about in business. And the really cool thing I'll tell you, if you have this concept of forecasting as something that's complicated and only used in Fortune 50 companies, I want to disabuse you of that. Is that the right word? I'm not sure. But I'm sure somebody will tell me when they see this tape. Because forecasting actually gets a ton easier the smaller you are. And I have used a forecast model that really is exactly the same in principle for a multi-billion-dollar company as it is for a startup without any money in the bank at all. And you also know that as a startup and with an entrepreneur, you need to have a process for forecasting that's not complicated and isn't going to tie down the entrepreneur in numbers and headaches of trying to understand how those numbers got there. What we want the entrepreneur to focus on is decisions And what we want to do is give them the confidence to make those decisions as quickly as they can. And as quickly as they can, as often as they need to, I'd say. We want to give them as much information as we can to make those decisions with confidence instead of with a lot of question marks. That's it. Next time we're going to talk about how you actually do this forecasting thing, but I wanted to get the concept out there to you. Enjoy your day. It's great chatting with you, and I hope you have a fantastic week. Take care.